Welcome everybody to tonight's stream of FNM here at Nerd Rage Gaming. I'm your host Andrew Donnelly. With me as always my co-host
Matt Dow.
Let's get into the action. What do we got here? We got a Jeskai Tokens versus Abzan Aggro for round one. Ben Sliwa, Joe Chott. Matt, what do you like here?
I don't know. I think first we should welcome everybody to Fate Reforged Standard.
That's true.
This being the first FNM of Fate Reforged
Yes, sir.
Standard. So the answer to what do I got here is, I don't know, man. These people are playing new cards.
They are playing crazy cards.
So,
did you get a chance to, I know you were looking through the sideboards earlier, did you get a chance to look through the decks at all?
no, I didn't get to see any of their decks.
Okay.
I did see their sideboards, though, and Joe Chott's got a spicy one in the sideboard, but it's not very good in this matchup.
All right,
so.
interesting. I know Ben was testing with a few things earlier today. I saw him kind of slinging some cards against Noah Cohen. So I'm kind of interested to see what comes out here. What's good in Ben's deck? I know he is playing the ever popular what is he? The Monastery?
Yeah, Monastery Mentor. Ben's got some of those. I'm
Yes,
pretty
he
sure I
does.
saw from when he was flipping through it. I think he has some Soulfire Grandmasters in his deck also.
Jeez.
There's a Wild Slash. Oh man, he's got them all the new cards. I think this is Brad Nelson. I think it's list that he had in his article today.
Off SCG?
That Ben is playing.
Interesting.
Joe, on the other hand, is playing an Abzan aggro deck. But Joe has his. This is a deck that Joe brewed himself. That he's
Okay.
been playing, on and off here for a while.
Sure.
So he has Anafenza in the sideboard, which is a card you typically expect in the main deck. So we'll see. I know from the couple of times I've played Joe, he's more on the Herald of Torment, Grey Merchant. So we shall see. As for what Joe is doing now, I can't say.
I can't say it's. First of all, we gotta point out awesome mat that we made for
it smells
NRG
awful
Live.
right now. But,
It does smell bad. The mat process is pretty stinky, but on top of it, that thing looks beautiful. So really, with this match, we're looking at probably two of the most popular decks in the format before Fate Reforged and after Fate Reforged, correct?
I think Jeskai Tokens was starting to wane in popularity towards the end of the last format. Abzan Aggro, though, definitely was beginning to, was ascending in popularity towards the end, just because it, crushed the whip decks. So, I think Ben is on a mulligan. Continue to wait for them to shuffle up. So, are you looking for to see any sweet cards tonight? What do you expect to see tonight?
I'd like to see an Ugin tonight. I think that would be cool. I think there's one or two blue-black control players, so I'd like to see if they're playing the Ashiok Ugin kind of combo. If I'm looking for even spicier cards over Ugin, because that may just be a little a little too common. People I know put that in some of their lists for the control decks that they were testing. I'd like to see a Mastery of the Unseen also. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that
That's
card's sweet.
The white 1 enchantment. Whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you gain 1 life for each creature you control. For a white and 3, you manifest the top card of your library. I think that can be strong in a lot of decks. I'd like to see that in maybe a green-white mid-range list or a green-white aggro list.
It's a card I don't imagine seeing tonight, just because it seems to be more of a build-around card than something you can just slot into old decks.
Okay.
So I don't expect to see it tonight, but I do think it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it could even, sort of spawn its own type of deck. I think there might be a Manifest deck.
We are, in fact, ready to go. So hopefully they will go ahead and get the okay from the guys outside. We are set. Let me go see if they are good to go. I was pretty sure Ben was mulliganing there.
All right, we're good.
We're good. We're all set. Everything's good to go.
Let's do it. We need a floor judge.
We do. We need a judge out there just to make sure. So let's see. So Ben was not mulliganing, just test draw there. Interesting.
On the test draw, trying to show us all the new cards he's playing in his deck. So, all right. I don't know who's playing first.
Well, we did not see the die roll.
Ben has every color of Bana, and they are all basic lands. So lucky Ben.
There you go.
I can't see Joe's hand. We shall see. Ben leads off on Basic Mountain and passes back. Looks like Joe's going to play a Basic Swamp and fire off a Blood-Soaked Champion.
Interesting. Okay.
So I wonder if Ben is going to take the time here to Wild Slash this. It looks like he decides not to, and instead is just going to play a Soulfire Grandmaster.
Holy cow.
After playing a Plains. So there is a new card.
Brand new card.
2/2 lifelink. Instants and sorceries you cast have lifelink.
Yep.
2 and then a blue or a red or a blue and a red, and next time you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand this turn, you put that card into your hand instead of your graveyard.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
The wording on that card is very interesting to me, because you can tell that Wizards definitely took some time to make sure that it wasn't broken.
Yeah. Yeah, if you read Sam Stoddard's article on developing these cards, there's a long list on just getting the wording for that card right. But so this card pretty good though against the aggro deck. It's a lifelinker, turns all my spells lifelinkers, so it's going to be hard for Joe to be aggressive in the face of this. Ben here plays a Jeskai Ascendancy after Joe's last turn, where he just played a Temple of Silence, Scryed, and then played another Blood-Soaked Champion. So I think if Joe has some removal here to get rid of the Soulfire Grandmaster, that he's going to be pretty far ahead. But otherwise, I think things might not go very well for Joe, just because this Grandmaster is going to negate, it's pretty much just going to fog his turns. Alright, so he does have the Bile Blight for the Grandmaster, but he does not have a third land, and is just going to ship it back. Ben's hand is lands, a bunch of removal spells, and a Treasure Cruise, I believe. So he has Lightning Strike, Wild Slash, a land, and then a Treasure Cruise, I think. So Joe does find his third land in an Urborg, but I believe he is playing Abzan aggro, so he could, does want to find that a green source of mana. So he's going to attack with his champions, and now this is a mistake on Ben's part. He allowed the Blood-Soaked Champions to attack. If he does this before combat, I don't know if he plans on killing the other one, but now he can just raid them back.
Joe can just bring them back.
Yeah, Joe can just bring them back because he's already triggered raid.
Correct.
So I don't know if Ben plans on lightning striking the other one or not. Doesn't look like he does. So I wonder if Joe doesn't play the land there pre-combat, if Ben wild slashes before damage, just in hopes that Ben kind of just... Right now I think Ben's plan is I'm going to fog, or I'm going to time walk his turn and get him to just raid this Blood-Soaked Champion back when he plays the third land instead of playing a 3-drop.
Sure.
But that's what Joe does anyways. He just plays the Blood-Soaked Champion, raids the Blood-Soaked Champion, which is good. I mean, negates pretty much Ben's spell. So Ben passes back. Joe has his 2 Blood-Soaked Champions, and probably looking for a green source of mana here. Looks like he has a couple of Grey Merchants of Asphodel in hand, so I guess in that case he wants any source of mana. So here he goes.
Once again, not responding to combat.
Ben on the just gonna... Well, he found a good one in Hordling Outburst, but it's weird. Blood-Soaked Champion is pretty resilient to removal, but I guess he has to do it since he is at 12, so...
Another reason to play Magma Spray if you need to remove these guys. Potentially in the sideboard, maybe?
Yeah. I don't believe Ben has any in his sideboard, but it would be a good sideboard card. So let's see what Joe does here. I imagine if you were going to just raid back your guy last turn, that you just do it again this turn.
Sure.
Especially because Ben has shown that he's willing to waste removal spells on raided the Blood-Soaked Champions that just get raided back.
Holy cow.
Joe's just going to play another Blood-Soaked Champion and then raid back his other Blood-Soaked Champion. But I think Ben has a pretty good follow-up here in Hordling Outburst, which is what I imagine he'll cast here. So he does have 5 cards in his graveyard, the ability to go to 6 cards in his graveyard to potentially cast a Treasure Cruise, but I don't know. I kind of like play the Hordling Outburst.
Well, it gives him a draw, allows him to have some sort of blockers that can trade easily, correct?
Yeah, right. I mean, all of those Hordling Outburst tokens would just allow, enable Ben to block all 3 of these Blood-Soaked Champions. Granted, some of them can raid back 2 if Joe finds another land. But we'll see. Ben is going to fetch up a Plains, and it looks like he he's going to cast the Hordling Outburst, okay. And then I imagine once that resolves, he'll have 6 cards in his graveyard. No, 7 cards in his graveyard, so then he can just Treasure Cruise. Yeah. Just going to pitch a land. So now he has 8 cards in his graveyard, I think. From the Jeskai Ascendancy discard trigger.
That looks right. The fetch land also helped, I guess, that turn. So now he doesn't have to completely overpower, right? With
He doesn't have to, but I mean, 1 damage I think is relevant.
Sure.
It could be. I typically don't like to fetch when I'm in a versus an aggressive deck because my life total might matter. Otherwise, I just would fetch.
We kind of see early on the Soulfire Grandmaster. The kind of downside to that card is, I guess, the fact that if they have the removal, it's going to get removed. Correct? I mean,
yeah, but I don't know if there's a super downside to the card. Like, any card in that situation was going to get removed. It was Seeker of the Way. Any 2-drop is going to get removed. Mm-hmm. Unless it was like Fleece. No, even Fleeceman Land's a 3/3.
Even Fleeceman, yeah.
So, yeah.
Very true. But I mean, potentially there's a chance, obviously, for every creature to be removed. I think here you're just looking at it. People thought it was going to somehow allow these Jeskai tokens to power through with a variety of lifelink, and now my Stoke the Flames are an advanced Lightning Helix, and
yeah, I think Seeker of the Way is a better card.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, I don't know what land that is. His arm is blocking the view, but he played a land this turn. It's not a basic land. So it's either a Caves of Koilos. I imagine it's a Caves of... No, it's a Mana Confluence. So it looks like Joe is going to bestow a Gnarled Scarhide onto one of his Blood-Soaked champions and then get in here. I think that's actually pretty good for Ben. I think this allows him to Stoke the Flames, the Gnarled Scarhide Blood-Soaked champion,
mm-hmm.
and then block the other 2.
Sure.
And then he also has, I think, another Stoke the Flames in hand, so next turn he can just Stoke the Flames, the Gnarled Scarhide, which is kind of, I mean, it feels bad, but, because it costs 4 mana and you're trading 4 mana for 1 mana, but, yeah, I don't know, it's just pretty tough.
It'll drop to 10 after the attack.
So we'll see what Ben does. So Ben is going to take it. He decides to go to 2. So I think Ben's on the line of he's just going to try to get this Soulfire Grandmaster to gain him a bunch of life back.
Sure. It's interesting that, I mean, even though we have Abzan aggro, and I know you looked at Joe's deck, I mean, he's cast nothing that's been green or white this entire game, correct?
No, he has not. He does have those cards in his deck, though.
Okay.
I have seen them.
He now has access to the mana to be able to start casting these spells, so...
So there's the Soulfire Grandmaster. Now, Ben has Lightning Strike and Stoke the Flames in hand, so he has the potential... He has 2 Stoke the Flames, but he can't cast both of them. So he has the potential here to gain 7 life to go up to 9. It looks like he has another Hordling Outburst in his hand, too. He is able to also pay for it with the Shivan Reef, which will only bring him down to 1. So
interesting. So he has 2 options. I mean, he's either going to play the line, put himself down to 1, rely on the Stoke the Flames to provide lifelink, and produce extra blockers.
Yeah, I imagine if we're on, well, if he casts, the issue is if he casts the Hordling Outburst, then he can't cast the Stoke the Flames, so he can only gain 4 life this turn. Soulfire Grandmaster does not have haste. Oh, so he is casting the Stoke the Flames.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's going to go up to 6, and Joe's going to go to 13. Alright, then he's going to trigger the Ascendancy and then untap his dudes. So he does have the potential to chain these Stoke the Flames together. I forgot about the Ascendancy. So he then would have 11 points of damage. And then he can attack... Yeah, I think actually Ben might even be able to kill Joe right here.
Be an impressive turn, depending on draws.
Yeah, so he's going to take another 4. Yeah. Yeah, I think Joe's just dead right here. So he's going to lightning strike him, and then that's 3 more damage, putting Joe to 7. And then Ben's goblins will be 3/3s.
Mm-hmm.
No, but they'll be 4/4s at that point. They're 3/3s right now, so he just needs 1 more spell. And that is pretty much. That's why Stoke the Flames is good in this deck.
That's why Stoke the Flames That's why Jeskai Ascendancy seems good when you can Hordling Outburst and play Stoke the Flames and grant the Soulmaster.
The Soulmaster I don't think really did much here, but Stoke the Flames, Jeskai Ascendancy, and the 3 tokens.
In the Hordling Outburst?
Are what won Ben the game there.
Oh, there we go.
So there's game 1. Pretty nice comeback for Ben. Joe shows him that you were dead next turn, couldn't have blocked this. He had the 5th land on top, although of note it was not a green source again.
I just have to believe. I wonder if we haven't quite seen what we need to from Joe's deck. I mean, just the fact that it has, all of these spells here, and I mean, just if it's Abzan, if it's really Abzan, show me the Abzan cards, Joe. Is essentially what I want to see. I want to see the Abzan cards.
Well, he's got them in the sideboard.
Okay,
so let's move to the sideboard.
He's got stuff in the side.
All right, so Joe's sideboard is 2 Merciless Executioners, which I think they're the 3/1. They're the 3-cost guy that both players have to sack a creature when it comes into play.
Upon entering the battlefield?
Yep.
Okay.
He has 3 Drown in Sorrows, 2 Despises, 2 Abzan Charms, 3 Anafenzas, 2 Rakshasa Death Dealers, and 1 Whip of Erebos.
Okay.
So I imagine he's going to bring in Drown in Sorrows here, and then the Whip. I think Anafenza is also probably not terrible, although I don't know how well his mana is set up to handle Anafenza. He drew Mana Confluence and is his only green source there. So
we saw Swamp, Temple, Urborg, Mana Confluence. I mean...
Yeah. Whip is definitely good here. Drown in Sorrow, I think, is also definitely good here.
Sure.
Really good. Because Ben has Monastery Mentors, you saw in that game, Soulfire Grandmaster, and then just like Hordling Outburst. You gotta assume he also has like Rabble Master and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I don't think Merciless Executioner is good here, although I think it's a sweet card. Just because like you play it and then you have to sacrifice a creature, and Ben has a bunch of tokens.
Sure.
Although the interaction between Bloodsoaked Champion and then Merciless Executioner at like 5 mana
is very.
I guess it's kind of sweet because you can sack your guy and then just raid him back.
It's it's the New Age Fleshbag Marauder.
Sure. I don't know what that.
You don't remember? You didn't play with Fleshbag, okay?
All right. Moving on to Ben's sideboard. He has 4 Disdainful Stroke, 3 Glare of Heresies, 1 End Hostility, 2 Anger of the Gods, 1 Elspeth, 2 Erase, and then 2 Valorous Stance.
Interesting.
Indeed. So I imagine in this matchup, I think let's see, we saw Bloodsoaked Champion and Gnarled Scarhide.
Correct.
Knowing that Joe also, I think, is playing like Herald of Torment and maybe Master of the Feast. Now,
Okay.
Ben didn't see those cards, but I've seen Joe. I played Joe with this deck a couple of times, and I think he has those cards. So I'm bored in a race because it's just Swords to Plowshares against a large majority of Joe's deck.
Yep.
But I don't think Ben will bring them in here. I think he will bring in Anger of the Gods, although I don't really know how much I like Anger of the Gods in this deck because you have a lot of things that die to it, and I don't know if he has enough cards to be like a controlling deck against Joe.
Sure.
So if he did have the desire to be a control deck, he could bring in Anger of the Gods and then like Elspeth and End Hostilities. But I imagine he'll bring in Anger of the Gods and maybe an Elspeth because I think Elspeth's pretty good.
I mean, it seems like Ben can take that route. I know his sideboard might not promote it, but if he does have the Elspeth and he does have Anger of the Gods, I mean, he can switch from the Jeskai tokens plan, the whole token package plan, to what seems to be at least an adequate like burn control list. I mean, because does Joe saw no planeswalkers this game, no creatures worth a hero's downfall. I mean, maybe the Soulfire Grandmasters, but even them, it's very. If you can just Bile Blight them away or Drown in Sorrows them away, it's.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Plus, I think you could maybe take out Rabble Masters as your creatures that you don't want, because even things like Monastery Mentor and Soulfire Grandmaster sort of play decently with your more control-ish cards. Although they don't really play that well with Anger of the Gods. So like that's my issue.
You don't want to side in the Anger when all of your stuff dies to Anger. I guess maybe then I'm wrong.
They don't play very well with that card. They do play well with all the burn spells, which count as removal and also damage to the face. So, I could see Ben taking that route. I don't know if I would take that route. I might just try to be more aggressive. But I would probably bring in the Anger of the Gods, because you don't necessarily have to, play a creature and then kill your creature with Anger of the Gods. You can sort of like sandbag creatures and stuff like that, and then play an Anger of the Gods and then land a threat of your own.
Sure.
So, but it is kind of a dead draw. You draw it later in the game when you have already committed.
You have a board state.
A couple of things to the board. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, it is. Well, let's see. They're going into game 2. Joe Chott, I'm sure, happy to be on the play.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wonder if he wasn't on the play there. Ben was on the play there.
Ben was on the play last game, correct.
I wonder. He might actually win that game if he's on the play. Just because his start was pretty aggressive. Multiple 1-drops on the play is pretty tough for most decks to beat.
With a Gray Merchant in hand? You said you saw a Gray Merchant, so I mean
he had
that's
multiple Gray Merchants. Yeah.
Sure. And Ben was fairly low before he had the turn to assemble all the right cards he needed to go off. Right. So
yeah.
I mean, Joe definitely has the potential to kill his opponent. I do like the Bestowed Gnarled Scarhide too. I know you mentioned it while we were watching the game, and I think that's a super nice card to run in these decks.
Yeah, Bestow is sweet. I especially like bestowing things with Herald of Torment.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my favorite card. Actually, my favorite card to bestow is Night Howler, but yeah.
But that's gone to the wayside.
Which
the
is
old
a
Night
shame,
Howler
because
decks.
those decks were the Jared decks were sweet, man.
They were sweet. They were fun to play at least. I don't know how great they are anymore, but
I don't think they're very good now. I think that just the whip decks with Hornet Queen and stuff like that have taken over. So
it'd be interesting. I do like the Night Howler. It'd be fun to see a deck like that come back.
Definitely.
I'm just wondering, just like you said with the race, now that there's so many 1-mana removal spells and you have Back to Nature still in the format, it's really hard to kind of hedge your bets on those Jared decks that really relied on like Herald of Torment. I mean, some of them even played Nyx Weaver.
Yeah, that card's out.
Yeah.
Alright, so start up game 2 here. Ben has a handful of removals and spells, which seems like
strong.
a good one.
Yep.
So he did bring an Anger of the Gods, and he also has the perfect hand for it in that he has no creatures in his hand and just has a bunch of removal.
So that's what we're looking for.
He does have Hordling Outburst, but he doesn't,
Oh, I see a
mana.
Sandseep Citadel. There we go.
There we go, Joe.
Finally.
He's finally got Abzan cards.
He's got Abzan stuff.
Ben drew a Soulfire Grandmaster for the turn.
Interesting.
So he's going to play a Battlefield Forge and pass back. Not exactly the card you want to see, I don't think, when you have Anger of the Gods in your hand. You can't really play it on curve. So you're hoping Joe plays a spell here that you can, maybe Wild Slash. Although I don't even know if you want to do that. You might just be content with, having Joe commit a bunch of threats to the board and then angering them away.
Sure, and then having the ability to play your Grand Fire Soulmaster. And
yeah, but I think having Joe pass there isn't super great for us. So Ben is going to lead with the Soulfire Grandmaster, so he's going to take the more aggressive line, and I think his hand sort of allows him to do that. He did draw a Treasure Cruise, so Joe is going to ponder whether he wants to Bile-Blight. No, he's going to draw a card. Looks like it was a Gray Merchant, so those 5 drops still in his deck.
Jeez.
Yeah, man, you got to kill him.
Yeah,
you have
to. You have to have the endgame reach, I guess. But
so there's a Llanowar Waste, and it looks like he is going to cast a Herald of Torment.
Sure. Ben's got to be.
Ben's salivating.
Yeah, I was about to say he's got to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that Lightning Strike lines up pretty well with that card. So he is in fact going to take a damage, Lightning Strike, and then gain 3, go up to 21. And he's going to swing in and go to 23. Joe's going to go to 18.
Boy, if I'm really in a bad spot if I'm Joe and I don't have removal for this card. I mean, this is
yeah.
That is not what
this card is kind of a pain for our deck.
Definitely.
Although if we switch to more of like a mid-rangey thing, mid-rangey deck with Siege Rhino and stuff, we might be able to overpower it. So Joe's going to draw. Looks like he has a mana confluence. So Joe's lands got him online this game.
I just don't know if it's. I mean, what is he playing now that's helping him? I guess a Siege Rhino right now would be kind
Siege
of
Rhino is still pretty good.
Yep.
Still a tough card for Ben to remove, unless he brought in Glare or Heresy. So let's see. Joe, deep in the tank on this one.
What do you want here? You got something. It's interesting to note, I think, that, I mean, this... I have to imagine things may be easier on Joe if he just took a mono black line. You know?
So he's going to play a Llanowar Waste, and then I imagine this is a Siege Rhino.
It'd have to be. Oh,
it is a Siege
there it
Rhino.
is.
So we're back at 20.
We've restarted the game. Things have been reset.
Joe's going to pass back. So Ben neglecting to untap his Soulfire Grandmaster. Going to play Temple of Triumph and Scry. Ben needs a way to remove this card. He's going to put it on the bottom. That's not it. So Siege Rhino is kind of a big pain for Ben. So here he can pass. He can cast Hordeling Outburst. Looks like he's on the cast Hordeling Outburst line. He also has the line of attacking into your guy. Hope you block, and then Lightning Strike.
Strike and kill it.
No, I guess he doesn't have Lightning Strike. He has attack, hope you block, and then anger. So trying to get some value off of anger.
And I guess best case scenario, right? You have the Soulfire Grandmaster out. Joe Chott has a board state. You Anger of the Gods gain life, right?
You do gain life in this situation.
So I mean that's your best.
You gain 5 life. I don't think it's the best here. No, I don't think that's a line.
If there was definitely a bigger state from Joe, but maybe it seems like Joe even sideboarded into almost a mid-range version.
I think these were in his main deck, but I just don't think we saw them. Yeah, I think Ben just has to pass back. I can't imagine. But the problem is if we pass back and Joe just keeps playing giant threats, we start to fall super far behind, especially things like Grey Merchant that we know he has, with things with toughness that doesn't tie to Anger of the Gods. So we'll see what Ben decides to do. Looks like he's going to play Hordeling Outburst and take 2 damage. He's going to go to 17. So, yeah, this Anger of the Gods is kind of looking awkward. Although, of note, our board can currently block Siege Rhino and kill it.
Yep.
We get 2 for 1, didn't get absolutely destroyed by a removal spell, but let's see. I think Joe might have another Siege Rhino in his hand, so maybe multiple Siege Rhinos are pretty tough to race.
I mean, if you're Joe Chott and you have another one,
I slam as many Siege Rhinos as my deck will possibly allow me to slam.
Of course. I mean, you just keep playing them, just run them out there. I may play it. Well, there's the Bioblight. Ben has no force of will.
He does not. Nor Stoke the Flames to Convoke. And there is Joe attacking for 4. So Ben's going to go to 13. And we'll see if Joe has a follow-up here. Interesting. Plays a Sansa Citadel. I'm pretty sure he has a Siege Rhino in hand. I would have just slammed as many.
Unless the Siege Rhino that we thought we saw was the Sandsteep Citadel. That's the only thing I think of.
So Ben's going to play a Temple of Epiphany. He's going to scry. He needs an answer to the Siege Rhino. Right now he has a bunch of cards that just do not line up very well with it. In Anger of the Gods, Wild Slash, and a second Soulfire Grandmaster. But I think that's one of the troubles with the tokens and the burn decks in general is 5 toughness is a lot to get rid of. 4 toughness, we're good. 5 toughness, things start to get a little hairy.
Very hard to fight against.
So Ben is going to attack, going to gain 2, and then Joe's going to go to 18. He has the possibility of racing this Siege Rhino if he was to play another Soulfire Grandmaster. Joe essentially is losing 4 damage, 4 life a turn, while Ben is losing none. But that gets absolutely destroyed by more Siege Rhinos.
A removal spell, again.
Yeah, more Siege Rhinos, Bioblight, Grey Merchant.
I mean, a lot of things we know Joe is playing.
Joe does have another Bioblight in hand, too, so he's going to play Mana Confluence. see what he decides to do here. I mean, like I said, if he's got Siege Rhinos, we're just jamming him all day.
I mean, I think you attack with the one you have on the field and then play the second one.
I know he has Grey Merchant in hand, so I imagine that card will get cast this turn, even though it's drain isn't huge.
Yeah.
So I think it blocks the Soulfire Grandmaster, which looks like Joe might Bile-Blight here.
Yep.
Okay. So it's not horrendous for us, I don't think.
Ben has no response.
But I mean, the issue with that is Ben kind of just did nothing for turn 4.
Yeah.
So it's not the greatest place to be. Joe taking a pain. I imagine he taking another pain.
Taking 2, 3, 4. Is this the other Rhino?
Yeah, I think this is another Siege Rhino. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure enough.
So he'll actually go to.
I think he's going to go to 19. Yeah.
And Ben will drop down
to 8, and we'll be dead on board to these Siege Rhinos.
Wow. What's his out here?
And hostilities.
And hostilities. Yeah, is the out that you're looking for.
Yeah, so I think Ben is going to have to run a Soulfire Grandmaster out here and chump next turn. Although I guess he has the ability to like Wild Slash and then go to 2. So
yeah,
we'll see what Ben decides to do.
Does he still have a Stoke in hand?
He does not. He has Treasure Cruise, Soulfire Grandmaster, Anger of the Gods, and Wild Slash.
Jeez, just not a spot you want to be in.
No. And I think this is one of the nice things about at least Joe's Abzan aggro deck.
Yeah.
He's playing these, so Ben's going to Anger of the Gods. He's playing these like 1-drops, but it's also playing Siege Rhinos, so you're kind of in this spot where you want cards like Wild Slash against the 1-drops, but they're really awful against the Siege Rhinos.
Yeah.
So Ben takes the line of Anger of the Godsing and then Wild Slashing to 2 for 1 and kill 1 Siege Rhino. Joe laughs and says, okay, I still have 1 more Rhino, and I think he has Grey Merchant in hand, so if he draws Bloodsoaked Champion, he kills him.
Yep.
He's going to draw for turn.
Look at Hero's downfall, actually.
And they attack in there for 4. Put Ben to 4.
Let's see what he's got. Is this going to be the Grey Merchant here?
Yeah, this is definitely... So he's going to Grey Merchant him. Then it's going to go to
1
and then scoop him up. Says, I can't beat this, which I guess is kind of a tell that Ben doesn't have End Hostilities in his deck, because he was still pretty... End Hostility was still a live draw there. Although I guess if he didn't have... He didn't have double white, I don't think, at that point.
He had a
Battlefield Forge, but he's at 1, so he can't tap it. So
you're right. Very true. I'm sorry. Yeah, he drops down to 1 after the attack. Yeah. Interesting. That game, I don't know if it was Ben's draws. I mean, he seemed to have a pretty decent opening hand.
No, I think it was just the way that Ben sideboarded. Looking at him on sideboarding here, he didn't bring in Disdainful Strokes, which I don't even think is... I think it's actually not that awful. I wouldn't bring in a bunch of them. But he didn't have Glare of Heresies in his deck, which is pretty much his only way, or his best way to get rid of Siege Rhino.
Sure. At this point, I think you're right. If we know he's got Glare Heresies and he's got the Disdainful Strokes, I think then you skip over the Anger plan, the Anger of the Gods plan, and you just play for the late game.
I think I do like some of the Anger of the Gods still. Although, I mean, the issue there is we brought in Anger of the Gods and saw 0 cards that Anger of the Gods kills.
Except for our own creatures.
Yeah. So did Joe board out his creatures? And I imagine on the play I wouldn't board out my 1-drops or my more aggressive creatures.
Yeah, you figure.
On the draw I might.
Yep.
But on the play I would not. So we'll see.
Ben's looking. I mean, I saw the glares.
So it might be correct here to board out Anger of the Gods and in thinking that Joe's going to board out his 1-drops on the draw.
Interesting. I mean, this is... I'll be honest, I did not expect this match to go to a Game 3. I was pretty confident in the Jeskai Tokens deck because I feel like it got a lot more love through Fate Reforged than the Abzan aggro list.
Yeah, but see, I don't know if any of these cards are like all that great.
I mean, I don't think anybody does at this point, right? Like, testing is still going on to figure out what really fits into these decks.
I think Monastery Mentor is sweet.
Yep.
I'm not 100% sold on Soulfire Grandmaster.
I have to agree. I don't think I am either. I mean, the lifelink is relevant when you have the ability through Jeskai Ascendancy to continue to draw these burn spells that always seem good. You know what I mean? Like, sure, if you have the Hordeling Outburst and you have the Soulfire Grandmaster and you have Jeskai Ascendancy and everything's kind of coming together in that perfect plan, it seems great. Beyond that, are you really using its ability? Like, are you really buying back cards for 4?
Right, yeah. I don't foresee that happening, no.
Yeah, I would almost rather just make tokens. I think I would rather make prowess token creatures that are getting stronger from Ascendancy and getting stronger from the spells I'm casting to power my Ascendancy.
I think Ben has Monastery Mentor in his deck.
I believe he does, too.
I think the question is would you rather just have Seeker of the Way, which is capable of being a 4/4 lifelinker, or,
over the Soulfire Grandmaster? Yeah, to some degree I would. I totally think so. I think even against opponents, they look at Seeker of the Way, and sometimes they may not think they have to remove it as quickly as they necessarily do. They look at Soulfire Grandmaster, and a lot of the time someone's going to read the card and be like, well, it's got a lot of text on it.
Mythic Rare,
yeah, I better kill it. And I know that sounds goofy, but, it's there's truth to that.
Yeah, and Soulfire Grandmaster, I don't think is like as good a blocker. I don't know. I think it's tough. I'd have to play with that card over Seeker of the Way, but I thought Seeker of the Way was pretty good in this type of decks. Mm-hmm. I think one of the other issues I have with Soulfire Grandmaster is multiple Seekers of the Way, like sort of like chained, in that they all got +1/+1.
Yep.
Whenever you cast a spell, the Soulfire Grandmasters, multiple of them aren't very good at the same time. They're just 2/2 lifelinkers.
Right.
Their abilities cancel out.
And that's kind of why I like the token producer, which, like we said, Ben is playing, because all of the tokens that you are now producing are not only getting buffed through Jeskai Ascendancy, they're getting buffed through the fact that they have prowess.
Yeah.
So now, every spell you have, my Lightning Strike says 3 to you or 3 to your creature, my creatures get +2/+2, which is just the nut. I mean, super good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is that kind of like weird tension with Soulfire Grandmaster and then like some of the token producers and Raise the Alarm and Hordeling Outburst. They do play a little better with Seeker of the Way. But
I mean, this deck definitely got a lot of love. It definitely has a lot of cards. I mean, more so than a lot of other decks through Fate Reforged. I think Blue-Black Control and Blue-White Control got some additional cards they have access to. Red-Green Monsters and some of the Tamir aggro decks definitely got new cards. So maybe that was Wizards' way of trying to cut down on the almost Abzan-esque, I don't know, powerhouse they saw coming.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was really on their radar or if they were if they were more concerned about other formats after their ban list struck and decimated people's hopes and dreams and wallets. I feel bad for you if you purchase Birthing Pod or any cruise related deck.
The solution is to stop playing Modern, because it's just going to continue to happen.
It will.
Which is super disappointing, and one of the reasons why I just don't like the format is because you're always so afraid that anytime anything gets even remotely good, instead of figuring out a solution to it, we're just going to ban stuff.
Yeah.
As in an Eternal format is annoying, because you spend all this money on your decks, you get good at your decks, and then to shake up the format, you have to ban cards. I don't know. I'm not a fan.
They want it to be a living and growing format. They don't want it to become, I'd hate to say quote, but they don't want it to become stagnant, which I don't necessarily think that it was. Do I agree with their bannings? The Treasure Cruise dig through time, I didn't read their argument. I read Pod's argument. The reason they banned that, it was like 2 sentences, and they pretty much said it won the last 5 GPs. This is why we're banning it. Okay, can't argue against that, but it'll be interesting to see.
You can though, because it won the past 5 GPs, but it wasn't like there were 7 pod decks in the top 8, and then one blue-red Delver deck. It was like a pretty diverse metagame.
You were correct.
A pod deck, and the pod deck just happened to win.
You were correct. I mean, Jeff Hoogland wrote a really good article about this and crunched the numbers, and I mean, he's right. In the power vacuum that was Modern, you had a strong deck winning against strong decks to become one of the best. But anyways, enough about the ban list. We'll get back to Standard in this match here that I thought for sure Jeskai Tokens was going to run away with. But Joe Chott managed to squeak out a win.
looks like Joe just showed us a handful of looked like siege rhinos.
Siege rhinos
no
are
lands,
good.
and shipped that one back.
Gotta send it back.
Yeah,
Doesn't like it.
Ben has a keeper. Looks like he's got a couple of lands. Raise the Alarm, Hordling Outbursts, and it looks like maybe a Rabble Master, which is a good card to have on the play.
Yep.
And he does have an Elspeth in his hand, which he might not get to cast, but that could be because his opponent is dead before
it gets off.
Before he gets to 6 mana.
We've seen Rabble Master do work time and time again when you have a timely Rabble Master followed by a Hordling Outburst followed by a Stoke the Flames. I mean,
yes,
that
seems ideal. I would. That could be in my hand.
Oh.
You know, every time I play, a lot of decks, I would take it.
It's a good start, and it's definitely dropped people very fast.
Although it does get blown up by those sideboard Drowning Sorrows.
It does, yeah, for sure.
For Joe's sake, hopefully he can find one of those 3 Drowning Sorrows.
There's always that potential, definitely.
Joe's on the mulligan to 6 here. Only a few minutes left in the round, so hopefully they can finish this game up.
They have
there is one Drowning Sorrow. Let's see, he's got an Urborg, so he's got double black provided he has multiple lands. So he's going to keep it. Ben, I think, yeah. So Ben's going to lead off with the Battlefield Forge, and Joe draws the ever awkward double Urborg.
Oh, jeez.
Now I got 2 Urborgs, but he does have 3 mana, I think, to cast the Drowning Sorrow. See, I saw that Sandstep Citadel that he just played tapped. So there you go. There's your Stoke the Flames. So Ben's got it all now.
So he has every card in the 3-card combo that he needs.
He has the Hordling Outburst, the Rabble Master, and the Stoke the Flames. I can't imagine he's going to get to cast the Stoke the Flames or the Hordling Outburst with the Rabble Master. There's a Raise the Alarm.
I like that play from Ben.
It depends what his follow-up here is. If his follow-up is I'm going to play another thing that Drowning Sorrow kills, I don't like that play from Ben.
Sure.
But although, to be fair, Joe did play a 2/2 that also dies to Drowning Sorrow.
Yeah.
So, these weird, I have a bunch of sweepers, but my creatures also die to the sweepers thing.
Correct. Is very difficult. I mean, it's difficult to play around.
Ben doesn't have the 3rd land, which
that's not good.
is very good for Joe, although the question is, does Joe have a 3rd non-Urborg land? And I don't know the answer to that.
He could pull the old Noah Cohen here and tap the Urborg for a land, play the other Urborg.
No, I don't think I do that.
I don't think I'd do it either, but
looks like he's going to get it in the red zone with the Death Dealer.
All right.
I think.
Maybe?
All right, he did attack. Looks like he chooses not to pump. Ben's going to take 2 and go to 17. And we'll see what Joe's follow-up here is. He does have the 3rd land in the swamp.
Yep.
And he is then going to play a Herald of Torment. A card that does not die
to Drowning
Sorrow.
Yeah.
Ben's going to take a damage, go to 16, and end step, Raise the Alarm. So there's 2 cards that we get with Drowning Sorrow.
Let's see if he gets
Let's see if he draws a land. No, he draws another card that dies to Drowning Sorrow.
The Soulfire Grandmaster, come on. I think if you're Ben, you have to start getting in damage. You have to punish the Herald, correct?
I think if we're Joe, we don't care. We can just race this. So Ben's going to take another damage, go to 15. If Ben wants to attack me for 3, I'm cool. My fear, yeah, especially because if we draw Jeskai Ascendancy, we can start doing broken stuff. I'd like to keep my tokens around.
Okay.
Joe's going to take a damage off the Herald trigger and go to 19. Hopefully they remembered that.
We'll remember it.
We'll remember it. I play with that card enough that I'll remember the trigger.
The trigger is definitely there. The trigger I like for people to pass is, what is it, Master of the Feast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remind people of that one.
I'm pretty sure you have to.
I'm pretty sure I have to, too.
It is your card. Okay, so Joe's going to attack with both his guys. Ben's going to chump block, take 3, and go to 12. This is, hopefully, I mean, this isn't great for Joe because of the Soulfire Grandmaster, and that he's only getting in for 3. But I imagine he has a follow-up here. Whether it's a removal spell for the Soulfire Grandmaster or possibly Dr. Siege Rhinoceros.
Oh, the Drowning Sorrow's there.
We have a Drowning Sorrow.
Well, that's what we were worried about, right?
I guess. It kills our guy, so it's... And he didn't even scry, so... Joe missing these triggers all over the place.
Boy. Oh, Ben's got to rip something super good here.
I don't know what we're debating. Joe... Alright, so Ben does
there
draw
it
a
is.
land. So now I imagine... He's going to play Goblin Rabblemaster.
You would think so, right?
I would think so. Although card isn't. I mean, I guess it does allow us to race if Joe doesn't have any additional follow-ups. Like it races this Herald of Torment pretty well. So, gonna take a damage. Go to 11. Make a token. Attack with the token. Joe's gonna go to 18.
Ghost dropping no blocks.
Untap. Take a damage. Go to 17. And there is Dr. Siege Rhinoceros off the top.
Right off the top? Oh,
right
boy.
off the top.
Has to make his way in every match. If Rabblemaster shows up, Siege Rhino's probably going to show up. It's just
It's got him, man.
hand in hand, those cards in Standard.
They're two pretty good cards, although I think Siege Rhino is actually a better card than Goblin Rabblemaster, but let's see what Joe decides to do here. I imagine it is either kill the Rabblemaster or play Siege Rhinoceros, and looks like he is going to cast a Siege Rhino. He will.
Does he take a pain there?
Yes, he did take a pain. Go to 16, up to 19. Off the Siege Rhino trigger,
Yep.
Ben's going to go to 8. And then I imagine we just attack with our 3/3 flyer. Yes.
Ouch.
Put Ben to 5. Alright.
Man.
So Ben's going to untap and see what this issue here where we have like 3 outs to Siege Rhino. Yeah.
Oh! I don't think that was it, though.
No, it looks like it was a blue card. So Ben has Jeskai Ascendancy he can cast, which isn't very good here. Right now his Rabblemaster is on chump blocking duty. He can also cast a Hordling Outburst, and then Hordling Outburst plus Rabblemaster blocks the Siege Rhino. Man, 5 toughness is a lot when you're playing 1/1.
It is a lot. I mean, he has no Stoke in hand either. No,
he does
no
have a
burn,
Stoke
no.
in hand.
I mean, that might be his out.
Yeah,
then.
his out is probably, hopefully Joe blocks. I think that's actually probably pretty decent.
Yeah.
It's just make my guys hope Joe just blocks one and then Stoke it. But if I'm Joe, I'm just going to be like, cool, dude. It's fine.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I
Take me
have
for
a Herald
2,
of Torment,
whatever.
sure.
Yeah.
Potentially a Grey Merchant in hand, though he's only got 1 card left in his hand, correct?
He does have 1 card left in his hand. So we'll see what Ben decides to do. Of note, Ben does need to take damage to stoke the flames in that manner.
Correct.
So you will see.
He's putting himself... I mean, the land drops for Ben just weren't timely. I mean,
Yeah,
he'd been stuck on 2
He kept a
lands
2-lander, though, with a bunch of 3 drops in his hand.
Yep.
And no scry lands, so... I don't...
Not
on the
seeing
play, I don't know if it's... And what, he had 1 2-drop, and... I guess he had a couple of raising alarms.
Yep. The double raise.
Yeah. So he's going to make... So I think he is going to take the... Hopefully Joe blocks with the Siege Rhino line.
Yep.
So he's going to attack. Joe does decide to block, which
Wow.
is... It is like, yeah...
Interesting.
Gonna get him. But Ben still has to kill this Herald of Torment, which is threatening to kill him any minute here.
Shortly.
Yes. So he does need to just cast the Stoke the Flames. I don't think he can do that. Okay, yeah, so now he's gonna go have...
Did he not just put himself down to 3 with the
He did
Herald?
put himself down to 3, and now I think he has to kill the Herald. So he can... What he can do is he can... well, Joe has another Siege Rhino, so it's not going to matter, but he can block, put his guys in front of the Siege Rhino,
yeah.
and then convoke.
All right,
So,
that's it.
there it is. Multiple Siege Rhinos. Good in
was
all
wrong.
formats.
I will say I was wrong. I expected the Jeskai Tokens deck to win this matchup. And I'm amazed. I don't know if it was just sideboarding from Ben and just not seeing the right cards at the right time. I mean, here it seemed like he was just stuck behind on land. I know he had the double raise the alarm and the Grandfire, or the Soulfire Grandmaster.
Well,
But against a deck that's running Drowning Sorrows and Bile Blights, I kind of want something more from my opening hand, or I at least want to see a land so I can
yeah.
start playing aggressively.
I just think, in that matchup, I think that showed that this deck has a hard time handling Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
And other, Anafenza and other just giant creatures.
Sure.
And especially when this deck started to play like Bile Blight and stuff like that, probably specifically for this tokens deck,
Yep.
is when things started to go downhill for the tokens deck.
Yeah, definitely.
It just is really hard to fight Bile Blight and then creatures with giant toughness.
Yep.
For this tokens deck.
True.
So.
I mean, it's amazing amazing. I think that the Just Guy tokens, and as I said before, I think the list got a ton of buffs and new things from Fate Reforged. I'm just surprised that it couldn't power through this.
Yep. I'm not too surprised. Like I said, I expected Abzan probably to beat Just Guy here.
Yeah.
Because I think it was preying on it before, and I'm not sure that the cards that Ben has in his deck are, very good against Abzan.
Right.
Rhinos are still good.
They are. They're still a super good card. All right, well, we'll be back shortly with the beginning of round 2. We've only got a few seconds left, and we'll get it kicked off.